4 a.m. in the woods, and we're bringing our first fruits to God. First thing, just asking Him to give us His wisdom. In this chapter by chapter Bible study series, we are taking in every little nook and cranny. We are just two beggars trying to find the good bread. Am I right? We are in 2 Samuel 18, and the surprises keep on coming. Last chapter, we hear about Ahithophel's demise and his death. We also learned that he was actually related to Bathsheba. There was a whole thing behind that. Now Absalom is hunting David down because he wants to be king pretty bad. Chapter 18. David reviewed his troops and appointed commanders of thousands and of hundreds over them. He then sent out the troops, a third under Joab, a third under Joab's brother Abishai, son of Zeruiah, and a third under Ittai of Gath. The king said to the troops, "I must also march out with you." "You must not go," the people pleaded. "If we have to flee, they will not pay attention to us. Even if half of us die, they will not pay any attention to us because you are worth 10,000 of us. Therefore, it is better if you support us from the city." David tells them, "I will do whatever you ask, whatever you think is best." So he stood beside the city gate while all the troops marched out by hundreds and thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, "Treat the young man Absalom gently for my sake." All the people heard the king's orders to all the commanders about Absalom. Absalom is still the king's son, and so it makes it a little bit messier because usually when you'd have someone rise up and try to take over the throne, they would be killed for treason. Then David's forces marched into the field to engage Israel in battle, which took place in the forest of Ephraim. In the forest of Ephraim, Israel's army was defeated by David's soldiers, and the slaughter there was vast that day. 20,000 dead. The battle spread over the entire area, and that day the forest claimed more people than the sword. The forest is not an ideal place to go to war. You have massive trees, just think of land that doesn't have a hiking path and like trying to walk in it with your armor, and then you have horses and donkeys, and it's just uneven terrain, not a good battle place. We are literally 4 a.m. in the woods this morning. Absalom was riding on his mule when he happened to meet David's soldiers. When the mule went under the tangled branch of a large oak tree, Absalom's hair was caught fast in the tree. The mule under him kept going, so he was suspended in midair. The Bible is wild, y'all. One of the men saw him and informed Joab. He said, "I just saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree." If you've been with me for a while, which I know some of you have, remember when we heard about Absalom's hair? Like, the Bible mentioned his looks and his hair, and it said every year he would get a haircut and chop off 5 pounds of it. That's how much hair he had. It was luscious locks, you know what I mean? The Bible mentions everything for a reason. After the man came to tell them, "I just saw Absalom hanging from the tree," Joab said, "You just saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? I would have given you 10 silver pieces and a belt." The man replied to Joab, "Even if I had the weight of 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For we all heard the command that you, Abishai, and Ittai ought protect the young man Absalom for me. If I had, I would have jeopardized my own life, and nothing is hidden from the king. You would have abandoned me." Joab said, "I'm not going to waste time with you." He then took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them into Absalom's chest while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree. 10 young men who were Joab's armor bearers surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. Joab blew the ram's horn, and the troops broken off their pursuit of Israel because Joab restrained them. They took Absalom, threw him into a large pit in the forest, and raised up a huge mound of stones over him, and all Israel fled, each to his tent. So we see Joab did not listen to David. He did not listen to his it was an explicit command to spare his life, to be gentle on him for David's sake. And Joab knew what he was doing because he had 10 men do it. So that way not the responsibility would fall on one man. Well, they gave Absalom a dishonorable burial. Traditionally, that was how they would bury someone who died in dishonor. I have some theories on why Joab disobeyed David. I think maybe part of it could have been military strategy. I mean, I get he could be a threat in the future. He could try to take over again. Another reason is loyalty to David, although it doesn't make sense. Maybe loyalty to David being the king. Another one which I thought about this morning was, y'all remember Joab was the one that convinced David to bring Absalom back to Jerusalem to make peace. Remember the wise woman? Joab stuck his neck out for Absalom. And then Absalom turns around and then tries to take the throne from David. I wonder if there is some hidden issues there, because he stuck his neck out. It's kind of like when you work somewhere. This has happened to, I'm sure, all of us. When you work somewhere and you have a friend and your friend's like, hey, can you give me a reference, and I would really want to work with you, and so you do that and you stick out your neck for that person, and they get there and they are lazy and disrespectful in like all the worst possible scenarios, and then you feel some type of way about it. Doesn't mention that. This is just what I have perceived in this, and then what I remember from reading earlier. So what do you think? Do you think it has anything to do with that at all? Verse 18, when he was alive, Absalom had taken a pillar and raised it up for himself in the king's valley, since he thought, I have no son to preserve the memory of my name, so he named the pillar after himself. It is still called Absalom's monument today. Then we have a story of two runners, two messengers. One, Ahimaaz, who really, really wants to deliver the news to David. He's practically begging Joab. Joab is like, no, not this news. We're going to send someone else. You don't want to deliver this kind of bad news. So they sent an Ethiopian servant of Joab, and he goes, the Cushite. He goes, and so they're both running to deliver this message. Well, Ahimaaz, he got there before the Cushite and told him the good news about winning the war, but then says that he saw the commotion between Absalom and Joab, but didn't know what had happened. And then the Cushite delivers the actual news about Absalom's death. The story of the two stumped me. I really felt like there was a significance, but I could not figure it out. I could not find it. I prayed. I was like, Lord, what is the significance of this? It's driving me crazy. So if you happen to have any ideas or know of anything, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your insight on it. And maybe God gave you some wisdom on it. David finds out about Absalom, and he is completely wrecked with grief. His son has just died. I think that there's some parental conviction there. Like, what did I do wrong? I understand because I'm a parent. And also, they never got to reconcile. So often we hear of times where people have died and we never made that peace with them. We never got to reconcile, and it just makes that death hurt even worse. This is the first time I've seen David in a fatherly light. He is crushed in the grief of his son. There is so much of our lives that go unseen by other people. We never saw David be a father. We had never seen him with his kids. We don't know what he was like. This chapter raises a lot of questions about leadership and justice. There is an issue between integrity of the kingdom and mercy. We see more consequences of rebellion and pride. And we see what it's like to not have any reconciliation, especially in our family. And I sympathize with David losing his son. We all want to train up our children in the way they should go, and we fail sometimes, and I wonder if he felt some of that guilt. And yet God is still in control, and his kingdom is different from any worldly kingdom, and we don't have to worry about the mercy because God has given us all the mercy through his son. We were reconciled with the Father. I will see you all in the next 4 a.m. in chapter 19, and we're going to see how those around David react to his grief and lament. Thank you for watching.